I'm Tony Coffey. And make sure you watch Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is Our Story on WEIU.
Join us tonight at 7 on WEIU.
No one can predict the future. But for over 40 years, we've believed we can create one by pushing boundaries, igniting curiosity, reaching out and connecting. A future where new tools help every child reach their potential, where everybody, no matter who they are, can experience great art, history, science, drama. Give to your PBS station and help create a future of endless possibilities for everyone.
My life was really a charmed life. I had loving parents, a little brother, a big house, but things started to change.
Genocide does not happen from one minute to the next. It builds gradually.
As a survivor, I want to make sure that nobody ever forgets that the Holocaust took place.
Join us tonight at 9 o'clock on WEIU.
My life was really a charmed life. I had loving parents, a little brother, a big house, but things started to change.
Genocide does not happen from one minute to the next. It builds gradually.
As a survivor, I want to make sure that nobody ever forgets that the Holocaust took place.
Join us tonight at 9:30 on WEIU.
Do you have a message to share with the world, but not the tools or skills to make it happen? Let WEIU Productions help. Housed in the WEIU TV station, our staff of producers is ready to bring your vision to life, whether it's a training video, social media campaign, commercial or non-commercial project. Our team wants to craft your video. Competitive pricing, one-on-one attention, and dedication to a product you'll be proud of. Call or email today to start designing your project.
Next time on Jazz.
The thing I love the most about jazz, it's the thing that expresses the United States. It expresses freedom.
Dedicated to chaos. Next time on Part 7 of Jazz.
Tune in Saturday at 7 on WEIU.
Celebrating 35 years serving you. This is WEIU Charleston, Illinois, a service of Eastern Illinois University. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is Our Story. My name's Lacey Spence, and I'm the producer for this show.
And I'm Wanda K. Robinson. I'm the project manager for this great story. And we are coming live to you tonight right here in the WEIU TV studio and live on WEIU.net. We're streaming on WEIU Facebook and YouTube pages as well.
And we're glad that you found us here, wherever you're at. This evening, we're joined by several of our wonderful storytellers, one of our champions, and we've got 15 great stories on tap for you this evening. And as you're watching, be looking underneath the story's title. You'll see a little A, O, or K, and a wreath. That will be which town the story is from.
And so what we need you to do right now is jot this number down, or if you've got a cell phone, punch this number right in your cell phone and get ready to call us, because we want you to call and talk to the storytellers and get your DVD and Blu-ray tonight.
All right.
Right now?
Yeah, without any further ado.
We're going to watch Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is Our Story.
Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story is brought to you in part by the Oakland Clinic is one of Horizon Health's 2 satellite rural health clinics providing care for all patients. Oakland Clinic Horizon Health hopes you enjoy Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story. Oakland Clinic Horizon Health is proud to be a part of the show and the Oakland area. With locations in Ashmore, Kansas, and Brockton, Prospect Bank supports all of the stories and storytellers in Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story. Prospect Bank is committed to service to all of the communities in our area. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Richie's Furniture is a family-owned and operated furniture store located in Ashmore and is a proud supporter of the production of Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story on WEIU. Richie's Furniture thanks those associated with the show and hopes everyone enjoys the stories. The city and residents of Oakland, Illinois support all of the storytellers and stories in Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story. The city of Oakland is honored to be a part of this historical program. Serving the Oakland area business community over 50 years, hosting events throughout the year, promoting business and tourism. The Oakland Area Chamber of Commerce supports Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story on WEIU. The mission of the Oakland Hinesboro Charitable Foundation is to enhance the communities of Oakland and Hinesboro. By supporting this show on WEIU, we hope it shows our commitment to Oakland and Hinesboro. A small town with good hearts describes the village of Ashmore. The village of Ashmore and their board is excited to be a part of Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story on WEIU. Enjoy the show from your friends in the village of Ashmore. The Ashmore Community Club thanks all of the storytellers and folks behind the scenes of Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story on WEIU. The Ashmore Community Club proudly supports all efforts in Ashmore. Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story is partially supported by a grant from the Illinois Arts Council, a state agency.
My story starts, it was like 1823 when my ancestors, the Boyers, came up from Kentucky and settled just south of Kansas in the Pleasant Hill area. And they said it was like a wilderness. There was nothing but wolves and rattlesnakes. It was unexplored, basically. But then it wasn't really till 1850 till Frederick Boyer and his family moved up to what is now Kansas, and they called that the Prairie. And it was just about that time that the Alton-Terre Haute Railroad came in. And that's what really connected this area to the outside world, because it brought in people and made an outlet for hay and grain and livestock. And so more people moved in. And so a man by the name of Lovell Wilhoit, that's kind of important, he platted and surveyed out the town of Kansas with the assistance of my great-great-grandfather, Elijah Boyer. It was pretty well wide open then, and land was kind of up for grabs. And the railroad brought in a lot of people and a lot of businesses, and pretty soon Kansas was booming. But it wasn't Kansas then. It was because of its location between Paris and Charleston and Indianapolis and St. Louis. They called it Midway, because there was Midway in between these towns. It wasn't until 1858 when they applied for a post office that the state said, hey, there's already a Midway up by Peoria. You're gonna have to change your name. Well, you remember 1858, this was right before the Civil War, and there's a guy I'm sure you're familiar with, Stephen A. Douglas, had introduced a bill called the Kansas-Nebraska Bill, which I won't go into, but it dealt with slavery in new regions. So it was very controversial, very much talked about, so they named the town Kansas. And then it got incorporated, and that's how Kansas went from Midway to Kansas. Shortly after that, another railroad came in called the Old Doty Railroad, and it went from Danville down to Siegel. So now we're kind of at a crossroads with two railroads. Well, business is really booming now. And there's hotels, dry goods stores, 16 dry goods stores, grocery stores. And it's funny, you walk through Kansas now, I look at my old postcards and see Main Street the way it was. And it's just like, buildings on both sides and people, and they say like on Saturday night, you couldn't find a place to park. I mean, that's where people came on Saturday, you came to town. Well, I go downtown now and it just looked totally different. But you know, we still have a lot going for us. We've got 3 churches and several organizations and a wonderful school system. I mean, without these picture postcards that we have to validate what this really looked like, you just can't appreciate what the town looked like back then. The old days, I sure like looking back at those old pictures and seeing what, I wish I could go back in time for one day and just walk down Main Street and like, wow.
Donnie Ritchie is my father-in-law, and Donnie was born in Ashmore in 1933. He went into the Army and came home in 1955, and shortly thereafter he started a construction business. Donnie was a visionary. He had a knack for knowing what Ashmore needed, and he had the drive and the determination to make that vision come to life. The school was small at that time, and one of his concerns was that there would not be enough children to keep the school in Ashmore. Well, he knew to keep the school in Ashmore that the population would have to increase. Donnie started the subdivision, Ritchie subdivision, built several houses just out of barren property that was completely empty, put 4 roads in and built many houses, apartments. He built other houses around town and apartments. So the population was 450, I believe, in 1970, and by 1980 it had increased to 782. So that dream, Donnie's dream for Ashmore to grow, came to fruit with the building of the subdivision. He also built a car wash, an auction house, a furniture store, a hardware store, a gas station, and a deli. The auction house he built from Quonset huts. They were used to store grain in. It was amazing that people would come to that auction every Thursday night, couldn't wait, and people will still come in the furniture store to this day and say, I remember when this was an auction house. Eventually, he connected 3 Quonset huts with the building between those, and my husband Rod started selling furniture in the back of the auction house on the Thursday evenings, which didn't take long then, and it became Ritchie's Furniture. Donnie just had a love for Ashmore. He had a love for the community. He was very active in the church. He was very active in the community club. Anytime there was a function going on, Donnie was going to be there. Whatever needed to be done, he would make sure that it got done. He was a wonderful family man. Family meant everything to him. His grandchildren were the light of his life. Him and Mamie would take them on vacations every year. The kids could not wait to go, pull them in wagons, put them in the back of the truck. The 4 grandchildren learned their work ethic from Donnie. He put them in the back of that truck and take them to work, whether it was shoveling dirt, picking up antiques, whatever. They went along and they worked. And they loved it. They loved every bit of it. He just was a people person. Everywhere he went, people would, Donnie, Donnie, Donnie. He loved people. There was no one that he wouldn't stop and take the time for. Donnie passed away at the age of 66 in 1999. But his dream for Ashmore, Donnie's dream, is still seen to this day.
Located on the north edge of Oakland, there is, nestled back in the trees, is a log cabin village. And the owners of that village are Robert E. Lee and his wife Melba and the family. And back in the 1980s, Robert worked for Young Radiator Company in Mattoon, Illinois. And they transferred to Tennessee, Lexington, Tennessee. And he was a minister at the time, and so he would go to Tennessee during the week, and on the weekend he would come back and hold services at the church, at the Baptist church. And so during the week he would drive around in the evenings, and he ran across some empty log cabins and thought, if I could have one of those, if I could purchase that, I could bring it back and put it on my property in Illinois. So he ended up having 3 different cabins that were homes that he purchased and brought back to Illinois. So my husband and my brother and a couple of friends went down to dismantle these cabins. And it's interesting because with a log cabin, you have to put it back the same way you took it apart, otherwise it will not stand. So they would take tin and nail them on the edges of these cabins, Northeast 1, Northeast 2, so that they could put these back together the same way. So if you were to come to the village today, there is a cabin that we call the Larson cabin that has these tin pieces at the edge of those so that you can see them. The 3 that they have from Tennessee are the Larson cabin, the Mattie Welch cabin, and the Bartholomew cabin, and there is family history with each one of those. With the Mattie Welch cabin, there were 2 old dresses hanging on the wall, and so when my brother went down to dismantle that and bring it back, he said, "Mattie, what do I do with these dresses?" And they had been her sisters, and one of her sisters had passed away, and the mother put those 2 dresses on the wall. And so Mattie said, it's part of the home, so it goes with the home. So my dad made a shadow box and put both of those dresses in there. So today those 2 dresses still hang in the Mattie Welch cabin. And then the Bartholomew cabin had Bartholomew's living in it for 150 consecutive years. It was built in 1828. There were 3 more homes that they brought in to the village. One they actually built on site there. So we have a Hall cabin, a Murray cabin, a Barksdale cabin, and a Charleston cabin. And they decided they could have an entire village. So if you were to come to the village today, you could also see a general store, a blacksmith shop, a carriage house, a school/church. And we've had lots of events there throughout the years. So what started as a project with my dad and my brother has ended up all these years later, 30-some years later, as something that we still want to maintain. My dad taught my brother a lot of things in the village about building with wood and having a vision and sharing that with other people, in his case with his son. And so my brother started to do that with his sons. And last year he was in an accident and he passed away. And so a lot of people came to me and said, what are you going to do? What is going to happen with the village? Because he was such a big part of the heart of the village. And so we determined that he would definitely want us to continue that vision that they had. So we have decided that we are going to continue to move forward. We'd just like to have a place where old ways can be shared with old friends, or perhaps some new ways can be shared with new friends. And so we would love to be able to share our Independence Pioneer Village with others.
I guess I'll start with Grandma and Grandpa Coffee, because they were great, great people. And they owned a farm south of Ashmore, and I admired my grandpa, but he passed away when I was 3. My dad started farming south of town in like 1947, and his brother, which is a few years older than him, was farming on his own. So after maybe 2 years, they decided, both the brothers, to put the farm together, and that started Coffee Brothers. And so they had 3 other brothers that helped them on the farm, but they were a little bit younger. And just to see those guys, the way they started, it was tough back then. The way they started, and they just kept expanding. In 1960, Coffee Brothers decided to come to town, and they bought a building in Ashmore for $500. And that's when they started the feed dealership. So I guess you could say it kind of made a big circle started out farming, the 2 businesses, and now we're back to just all farming. And then when we sold the store in '99, that's when it became Coffee Family Farms. And that's kind of when I took over the farm and done all the farming and stuff. So right now it's a 4-generation farm. Like my grandsons are out there, and they've probably done, I'd say, 85% of the harvest last year. They just eat it up. They love farming. The family to me is number one. You know, that's very, very important. We would always stop at night. When it came supper time, my wife would bring supper and stuff, and we would always stop and take time for family, no matter what. You know, I remember stopping one time, my son was small, and we would sit there and throw the football back and forth, you know, because I just wanted him to have fun, you know, and I wasn't there all day and half the night, and, you know, I just wanted to take time with the family. When I started buying ground, I'd done it for my son, and now he's taking it over and he's buying some ground, and we're always looking ahead for the next generation to make sure they've got enough to farm, and God willing, it should be around for a good while.
The village of Kansas, originally Midway, was founded around 1853, I think. And back in those days, there was one church building that was shared among 3 congregations. That didn't work out very well. And shortly after that, a group of people got together that wanted to start a Christian church in the community. And by 1858, that had organized as Kansas Christian Church. So an original church was built, a wooden structure. Later it got moved to another location, but somewhere around 1906, the congregation got the idea they ought to have a more modern brick building, and so plans began to build a new building. That was completed in October of 1909. I remember in 2010, I had a funeral for a lady named Elizabeth Sexton, lifelong resident of Kansas and a member of our church. And it occurred to me, Elizabeth was 105 when she died in 2010. She was the last person who had living memory of what the landscape of Kansas looked like without that church building. And for some reason, when I went to bed on July 21st, 2011, that was the last thought I had before I went to bed. About 3 a.m. the next morning, July 22nd, I was awakened by someone beating on my door, ringing my doorbell, and yelling, "Your church is on fire, your church is on fire." I hurried up and I got dressed, and as I stepped out into the dark, I could hear the fire whistle going already, and I could see a little bit of red, and I thought to myself, it's not that big of a fire, we'll get it put out, we'll take a week or 2 off, we'll throw some paint and maybe some spackle on it, and everything will be fine. And then the ceiling caved in. And the fire spread, and within hours, our building that we had loved for just over 100 years, 102 years, our building was gone. By the time the sun came up that morning, all that was left were a couple of walls and our bell tower, the bell still up at the top. And it was a few months of clearing the rubble and getting rid of brick and trying to make sense of everything. And then finally in August, we were ready to take the bell tower down, but we knew we needed to get the cornerstone out first. A couple of our guys are in construction, a couple of the guys in the church, and they started chiseling out the cornerstone very, very carefully, little by little. They got it more and more free. So then finally Jeremiah reached up underneath, found a cavity in the rock, and he pulled out this little box. It had been lead soldered shut. What we found was a copy of the Kansas Journal from that week, which included a story about how the Presbyterian Church was about to build a new building, and they were going to use the same contractors that were building the Christian church. We found other newspaper clippings. We found lists of members and lists of members of committees for the church. We found lists of people who worked for the bank and ran the bank. We found postcards and all kinds of pictures. And out of all the treasure, we found 1 penny that someone had thrown into the box at the last minute. So, you know, in the Bible, Jesus says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And I think it occurred to all of us that this little community that they had founded just a few decades before building this church, this community was their heart, and they shared their treasure with us. They shared their heart with us. So by 2013, we finished building the new building, which we love. And when we finally got the cornerstone back in place, and we put the same cornerstone there along with some of the original brickwork, we put our own time capsule in there. And when we put our time capsule in, we put some pictures and we put some newspapers. My old preaching Bible is in there. And we also included letters from our members, sealed letters. I have no idea what they've written, but I asked them, write your stories. Tell your stories to the people who will open this eventually. Tell them about your struggles and your joys. Tell them about your blessings. Tell them what it was like to live when you did, with the problems and the joys that you had. Share your treasure with them, just like the generations before had shared their treasure with us.
Oh my goodness, I know that you are loving these stories. Didn't I tell you? They're just amazing, and they just warm your heart and draw you in. So what we need you to do right now is pick up the phone and call. These storytellers and our champion are waiting to hear from you, and they want to talk to you and tell you more about their story. So please pick up the phone and call right now. You can get DVDs. Tonight we're offering Blu-rays. Like, what?
20th century, we've arrived.
I know, we're so uptown now. So Blu-rays and DVDs, one is $75, 2 or more are $60 each. So what a bargain you're getting if you buy more than one. And you know what? Mother's Day and Father's Day are coming up really, really soon, just right around the corner. So wouldn't it be great? Your mom and your dad would just feel so loved if you gave them a DVD or a Blu-ray of Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, or as we like to call it, A-OK.
Well, the other thing that's cool about that too, you talk about giving it as a gift. Yeah. I know that I grew up in Oakland. I graduated. I didn't get too far. I'm here in Charleston, loving that too. But it's a great gift for your graduates. If you're going to be sending them off to college, or even your folks who are watching from out of town and you just want that taste of home that you can watch anytime, this is a great way to get that.
It really is, and what great stories. You know, these are small towns, but with people with big hearts, and they just have rallied in, and they were so excited to come together and tell their story. And I know that you are just being blessed tonight as you're watching these great stories unfold, and you're getting to hear them for the first time. And so what would make these storytellers just get real excited tonight is if you would pick up the phone and call them and start ordering DVDs and Blu-rays.
We want them busy, that's for sure. So while we have a minute, I'd like to chat with one of our storytellers. We have Brett Hammond from the Kansas Christian Church on site, and he was our story, Where Your Treasure Is. Now, where did you come up with the title for your story?
It's in the Bible, Lacey.
Well, I know that was in your story, but hey, first phone call, love that.
Good job.
But what made you what is this is a treasure for you to really find that? Were you expecting anything to come out of that cornerstone?
We had no idea what would be in the box, and I think what surprised us all was it wasn't anything grand. It was simply their stories and who they were. And as I said in the interview, in the story, we realized that was their treasure, who they were, and the town that they were so proud of. And so we kind of reflected that when we put our own box in. We told our stories. So
definitely. And we know that you are pastoring.
Yes.
So how has this experience been different from the pulpit that you're normally on a weekly basis?
Well, as far as telling the story, you guys made me a little more nervous than I am usually, having a camera pointed at me. But no, it was just great to get to tell the story of our church. We're very, very proud and very humbled at what we get to do in our community.
Sure thing, and we're so thankful that you're here with us tonight. Now, while we've got some other folks on the phone, we are hoping that you will call and get Mr. Brett busy. Hey, called it. Look at that. That's where our treasure's at.
That's right.
And I think that's probably the best part. He says that he was a little nervous, but that's kind of the fun part for us. We have a lot of folks who will come in. They will be so terribly nervous. nervous to tell their story. And my goodness, they come in, they rock it out, just a little polishing on my end, and it really makes for such a great show. It's such an honor to get to tell these stories to you guys tonight.
It really is, and I hope that it will cause you to maybe come to Ashmore, Oakland, and Kansas and visit these beautiful small towns that have so much to offer. I mean, what about those stories that you just listened to? John Saxton from Midway to Kansas. Who knew that it was called Midway?
Right.
Like, I always thought it was called Kansas Forever, and it really wasn't. And how cool was that? And I think some people that even heard the story last week when we showed it to the storytellers, they were saying, I learned so much tonight, and I've lived here all my life. So that was so cool. And Cindy talking about her father-in-law. Oh my goodness.
Oh, it makes you wish that you could have met him.
Yes.
Like the impact he had on Kansas, just being such a great gentleman in the community, someone who will always stop to talk with you.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of person you want in your corner.
Right. And to build Ashmore up, I mean, to love that community so much, and like she said, it jumped like 300 and some people because he was working to build the town. So tonight, you can help build these towns up just a little bit higher if you want to. Pick up the phone and call. Keep these phones burning up. Oh, yeah, that's what we want to hear. Pick up the phone and call us tonight. If you can't get through on the first call, then punch that redial and call again until you get through to one of our storytellers.
And we just love, again, being able to share these stories with you. I know that it's been kind of a big reunion for me when we did the first community meeting, and it was like folks that I had cheered for in high school, I had folks I went to church with, and it's a really great way to connect people. And I know our other producer here, Ramin, he's always big on it's educational. It is so cool to be able to learn new things and learn new things for these folks who are from the towns.
Oh,
so I'm
my
from Oakland, and
goodness.
I'm learning that there was this gym with the Rutherford home that I didn't make it to while I was there. And so now I got to circle back around for sure. This story really sold it for me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And Tracy Montgomery talking about Independence Pioneer Village. I mean, you can just feel the heart of, and I know that Lacey and I went there the other day and walked the grounds, and my goodness, such a feeling, such a warm feeling. So if you haven't ever been there, go and be sure and visit that sweet Independence Pioneer Village, and you'll feel the same way that we do. We want to go back when we got more time.
Actually, I will be back for a wedding here pretty soon, and I'm excited to check it out. And like you said, this DVD, getting a DVD, a Blu-ray, being able to share these different stories, these locations, these landmarks, can help draw people into the town. So get that number on the bottom of your screen, plugged into your phone. You can get one DVD or Blu-ray for $75, 2 or more for $60. And this is going towards WEIU. So it's what we get to do here. It gets us propelled onto our next story in the lineup. We got T-Topless. If I said it wrong, please don't.
T-Town.
Don't call in to yell at me. There it is. But we've got T-Town next, and we also get to give a great educational opportunity for our students, whether it's through our news program, our radio program, and it's such a blessing to be able to do what we get to do, but it's only from your support.
It really is. And when you want me and Lacey to get excited, talk about WEIU and what we love to do for our communities. And this is a prime example. We can go into small communities just like these, just normal, common, everyday people just like you, and they sit down with us and tell their stories. I always tell them, when you come in and sit down to tell us your story, why, you're just talking to a couple of old friends of yours. and so they come in and they sit down and tell their story, and then Lacey does her beautiful gift of editing, and she just makes it so polished and lovely, and well, they're stars. Oh, I think even we got an Oscar back here at our red carpet premiere last week. We gave out Oscars to our storytellers, and man, they loved it, and that's got them all excited here tonight.
And how about this set? I mean, we were able to get, we've been lovingly calling it the AOK flea market, but these are such treasures.
High class.
Oh my gosh, it's been so cool to be able to go around and collect these different items, especially me coming from Oakland, slightly biased, but I love all the old sports memorabilia. Like the pom-poms over there give me the biggest like throwback ever. And we've got jerseys.
We've got the Ashmore fire truck. Look at this fire truck in
I feel like
the
I might need to
right.
give you a little
Look
cute
at
little
that.
Vanna White.
Oh my! And it jingled the bell.
I didn't practice that, sorry. Maybe by the next segment.
There you go. But this set is awesome. We were just blown away again. These precious people, when we said we needed items for the set tonight to just wow you with, they just kept giving and giving and giving. And oh, and look back here at Miss Ollie the otter. Well, I don't think we've ever had an otter on set before, but we've got Miss Ollie with us tonight, and how cool is that?
Thank you so much
listen
for
to
calling
those
in.
phones.
We love it. If you're just joining us, we've gotten through 5 stories so far from Ashmore, Oakland, and Kansas, and we've got some really great ones still to come.
Yes, we
And we're
do.
so thankful that you're calling in again. It's that number at the bottom of the screen. You can also give safe and secure at WEIU.net. So obviously, if you're watching now, you found us somewhere. But if you've got a loved one who's out of town, who's like, where can I watch this? You can find it on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel. We are out there over any of the airwaves you could kind of think of, wanting to share this story with you.
We are, and you know, I know DVD, $75, but you know what? You're getting much more than a DVD or Blu-ray. You are able to be a part of WEIU, reaching into communities, making a difference. You know, that's the thing that sets our PBS station apart from others, is because we go into our towns, our communities, and we highlight what's so special about all of them. And so we're sharing that with you tonight. So thank you all for calling. My goodness, these phones are busy and we love that. So keep it coming. Please call a neighbor if you know somebody that's not watching. Call them real quick, tell them to pick up and get on the phone and call in and get a DVD or Blu-ray. Well, right now we're getting ready to go to Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story.
I know when it all started, like the initial co-op, the first signs of it kind of started back in the school year of 89-90. They decided to co-op for football and for baseball because Oakland didn't have baseball, Kansas didn't have football, Kansas needed somewhere to go because they wanted to play football. So when the fall of 89 happened, Kansas came over and they started playing football, and so they were called the Oakland, Kansas Oaks. And then that following spring, they co-opted for baseball, and they were called the Kansas Oakland Bulldogs. And at the time, Oakland was orange and black, and Kansas was purple and gold. And mainly, a lot of this was just because of enrollment. Kansas was starting to lower, and so was Oakland, and they weren't having as many kids go out for these sports. I remember being a kid and going to football games, and it was always Oakland, Kansas Oaks, Oakland, Kansas Oaks, Oakland, Kansas Oaks. And I was very proud of the orange and black. Didn't really know a whole lot about anything else. My family's a huge football family. I just remember going to games with my mom and dad. My brother played, and he graduated in 2000, so he was an Oakland Oak. But I remember growing up and being like, oh man, I can't wait till I get in JFL. I'm gonna wear orange and black. Can't wait till I get in high school because I'm gonna be repping it. So it was spring of 2004. We had a couple people come in class, and I think they were administrators or something, or they were handing out these pieces of paper. And on this paper, it had 3 things you could vote on. The first one was the team name, second one was your mascot, and third one was your team color. They did it at Kansas as well, and majority vote ended up being Titans, like obviously. And then when it came to the school colors, they didn't bring in any extra colors. The options were orange, black, purple, gold, and you could only vote for one color. So we ended up changing our school colors from orange, black, purple, gold to orange and purple. So it was 2004, 2005 is when we co-opted all the way across the board for everything. When it first started out, I wasn't very happy about it because I wanted to be in the Oakland Oaks gear. I wanted to be all Oakland Oaked up. I wanted to be orange and black. But then once I started experiencing the Tri-County Titans, the orange and purple, I started bleeding orange and purple. And I think there was a lot of excitement, at least from articles I'd read and people who were in high school and were in junior high at the time. You know, I think they were excited, but at the same time they were nervous because they didn't know, because there was a rivalry there before that for some sports. So 14-15 happened, Shiloh joined the co-op. Since Oakland was being represented color-wise with orange and Kansas was being represented color-wise by purple, Shiloh needed to be represented as well, so they added blue. There is success between the three schools within this co-op, and it's really awesome to see all these these parents who probably played against each other when they were in school they're on the same side, they're on the same team, and they're supporting the same kids, they're supporting each other's kids.
I was a city girl. I married a farm guy and I became a farm wife. When I was first married, my in-laws had a book called The First 100 Years of Kansas. And I read it and I thought, this town has some amazing history to it. And I've always liked to talk to people, and I've loved photography forever. And the opportunity came up for me to be able to write for the story and contribute pictures, and I thought, this is perfect. The village of Kansas was plotted about 1853, and it wasn't too much longer that the first newspaper was established, and it was called the Kansas Citizen. There was also later the Kansas News, the Republican Sun, and the Guardian. Those papers all lasted maybe 4 or 5 years each, and the remaining paper, the Republican Sun, was renamed the Kansas Journal, and it stayed the Kansas Journal until 1981 when the name changed. The older papers were located in what I had always known as the Cook Hardware building on East Buena Vista Street. And then it moved to the second story of the drugstore that was on the corner of Buena Vista and 49, which is where the Prospect Bank stands now. Aside from the hundreds of pictures that I took of the sports teams, of the Little League teams, and stories I did on the 4-H clubs, there were several stories that I did that were very memorable. In the early 90s, we had 6 young men and women from the class of '88, Kansas High School '88, that were sent to the Gulf War with their unit, the 1544th. My son was one of the ones that went. We had rallies, we had parades, and it was a sad time for us that they were gone, but it was a great time to see all of the people who were there to support them. We even had a tree in the park, a big old evergreen tree that was decorated with yellow ribbons. And one of the pictures that I took was of his second cousin who was standing in front of the tree when she's just a little girl, Tori, and she was a big supporter of him and the troops. And I'm happy to say that they all came home safe. The Rodney Jewell family of Dudley, which was east of Kansas, had a small farm that they made into a small wildlife zoo and was open for anybody to come who wanted to come see it. They raised all kinds of birds. They had chickens, they had wood ducks, they had pigeons, peacocks, and pheasants. They also had a license to raise raccoons. Their son raised his own birds and he used them for an FFA project in high school. These are just a few of the stories from the prairie that I was privileged to do, and it was fun, and I enjoyed the history, and I enjoyed just having fun doing it.
"40 people in 1940 were meeting together to worship and praying that they could have a Baptist church in Ashmore. George Moore was the one who coordinated the meetings, and they met in a church, or in an old building uptown for a while until they were able to lease the Methodist church and later buy it. And when they bought it, then we find them calling James Ostema for the first pastor. And he only stayed just for a short time. And then there were 3 more short-term pastors that followed him. And that went on until 1947, at which time they called a college student at Eastern, who was my husband, Dean Rule. And he had started his education to go into the ministry. So he pastored here then until 1950. From there till 55, there were 4 more short-term pastors. In 55, the church called Dean back again. And when we came back that time, the old church building was in sad need of repair. The pigeons helped us sing the songs sometimes as they looked in at us. And if it happened to be on a rainy Sunday, you might have to move to miss the raindrops. So the church knew they needed to build a lot, and when it was finished, we were able to get better organized, and we had the Sunday school age groups, and we got the mission group started for the kids, and it also had the vacation Bible school. We were able to start a choir, and we had a bus ministry, and we had 2 teams, a visitation team and a prayer team. We met in that new sanctuary then in 1965 for the first time, but by the time that was all completed, we were thinking about the education unit. That was in 1971, and we finished it in 1972. It seemed like I was always teaching a class and playing the piano. I spent more time on the piano bench than on a church pew. But I enjoyed every bit of it. Well, in 1979, Pastor Rule felt and knew that he had completed the God's call that he had had with the Ashmore Church, and it had been great. But God's number is 7. The perfect number. Each of the 3 units were completed in 7 years and paid for in 7 years. And the pastors following him, there have been 7 pastors who have kept up the work, and the present pastor is David Colvin, who has been here for 10 years. And we're thankful that those 40 people prayed and got the church started, and that it has kept going. And now it's not only reaching in Ashmore, we've sent people out to other parts of the world.
So Walnut Point's just north of Oakland, and the whole thing became a reality in 1961. The legislature passed a bill that appropriated funds. They bought the ground, and the park opened in 1968. It got its name a whole lot longer before that. The park is named Walnut Point because that is the first settlement in Douglas County, which that original settlement, it was about 3 miles west of the park. When the park opened, it was only 464 acres. Today is 671 acres. And we house 60 campsites, a shower house, a little over 5 miles of trails. There's 2 boat ramps, a concession stand. Just a lot of general amenities for people to enjoy. The focal point of the park is the lake. It's 59 acres, and there's a little over 7 miles of shoreline, which for that small lake is pretty neat because there's so many fingers. So it's an all-electric lake. There's no gas motors, which is enjoyed by a lot of people because it stays quiet, the water stays calm. It's huge with kayakers. That's really become a thing here in recent times, so we like to see everybody get out and enjoy them. We've done a ton of new programs and new habitat work. We're really big on prescription fire. It's It looks scary and leaves things black, but it's really good for the forest, and it's really bad for the invasive species that we're trying to get rid of. And for the last 2 years, we've had school kids come out on Earth Day, and we've put over 1,500 pollinator and prairie plants in that square, which reduces our mowing and saves money and then gets it back to what it should be looking like, and each step on our Facebook page. And that's a great way that we get our general information out to the public and they can see what we're doing every single day. You know, we're working hard to use your tax dollars as best as we can and constantly improve and either come up with new stuff or redo the existing stuff that we already have. And it's nice too, because just like these little communities, Walnut Point's kind of a little place. So, but when we put that maximum effort into that little place, everybody gets to notice it and see what's going on. And it's just really neat to see multiple generations. You know, now my kids are there, and when I was in 8th grade, I wrote a paper on what I wanted to do, and I said I wanted to work at Walnut Point State Park. And then I graduated high school and I joined the service and went off and saw the world, and then I worked for the U of I and just randomly ended up at Walnut Point. Now I live there.
My great-great-grandfather was 16, and he was living with his grandmother at the time. And she passed away, so he immediately had to grow up. He was 16, and I think he had 4 or 5 younger siblings, so he had to take care of them, and there was really no way for them to do anything, so they lived off the land and kind of made do with what they had. And there's a family name, their name's the Zieglers in Marshall, and when he passed away, he split his inheritance 2 ways, one with my great-great-grandfather and then his biological children. So he split his inheritance because he felt sorry for them. And with that money, my great-great-grandfather went into business in 1906 in Marshall. And then after that, with the partnership, it kind of fell apart. In 1908, my great-great-grandfather actually moved to Kansas and started the store there. I mean, I think we're the longest lasting business in Kansas as of right now, and as things went on, the business became more profitable and he opened up a few more stores. So I think they got up to 6 at that point in time. They were doing well, and obviously everything was horse and buggy back then. So to ship lumber and materials in between stores, I believe it would take them 2 days to get to Marshall and back, where now it takes 15 minutes and we can take thousands of boards 15 minutes one way and it not be a problem. But in the winter, they would actually heat up bricks and sit on them to keep them warm on the carriage. So as that went on, my great-great-grandfather, he had one boy. His name was George. He was an only child, so he was a little spoiled, and my grandpa will tell you that he was a little spoiled. His main love was shooting clays and fishing. So when my great-great-grandfather passed away, he had to step into the business, and his business skills weren't that great. He didn't like to work. So he just kind of hung out and did his own thing. He had to close 2 of the stores because they weren't making money. So he kept 4 of them open. And he ended up passing 10 years after he got the reins. So when he passed away, it was the early 50s. And my grandfather now took over the business fresh out of high school. I believe he was 20 or 21, so there was a lot of weight on his shoulders with that. He had a meeting with his accountant, and they told him to sell. There was no point in trying to make these businesses work, so he closed 2 more stores, so they went from 6 to 2 after that, and they kept Kansas and Marshall going. And as things progressed and things got more efficient, he started reopening more stores. They went to Charleston first. Then after that, they went to Mattoon, Casey, and Ogden, I believe were the ones that he opened up himself. So the business obviously grew with that, and after that, my father became the 4th generation to take control of the company, and he did that in 1999, I believe. So he's been at it for 20 years, and he's planning on retiring now. So we're getting ready to transfer into the 5th generation, but Dad opened up, he nearly doubled the company in size in those 20 years as well. He went up to Paxton, Mahomet, and then we branched out into different states after that. So we have 2 in Indiana and 2 in Kentucky now. It's always been a family business. That's something we pride on. It's still 100% owned by the family. It is pretty cool to go through town and realize that there's a lot of history here that you have a part in building. I mean, honestly, you don't really think about it until someone comes in and are like, hey, we built our house for you 10 years ago, and they know who I am, and I have no clue who they are, but they kind of picture us as family.
Welcome back, everybody. We hope you're enjoying Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story here in studio. We're having a party. We love when those phones ring, and we've got some special shout outs to give. You want to kick us off?
We sure do. We got Becky in Kansas gave $75. Nancy from Ashmore, she's a longtime Ashmore resident. And James from Oakland, he's a regular visitor at Walnut Point and really enjoyed hearing their story. And then my forever friend, Jana Johnson. Jana, thank you for calling in and for your support tonight. And then Ron Woodyard from Ashmore. Thank you so much, Ron, for your gift tonight.
And we've got Trish from Kansas. She got 1 DVD or Blu-ray. She remembers the church fire vividly. I mean, that had to be talk of the town, my goodness. We've got Susan from Kansas. That's John Saxton's wife. Aww. John couldn't be here tonight. We're missing you, but we hope that these discs treat you well. We've got Camille from
John.
Yes, we've got Camille from Kansas, which is Brett's sister, showing out. She got 4 discs. Woo! Yes! So feel free to try and call in to beat her. We've got Larry M. from Hinesboro got a disc. Mary W. from Cerro Gordo got a disc. She said, I know Cindy and Brett and grew up in Kansas. See all these people, they go off and they come back and they just want to love on their hometown. Lori sure did that. She's out of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. She was the first caller, bragging rights there. That's Brian Watson's sister.
Oh,
so his story's coming up in the next segment, so just keep sitting tight, Lori. We'll get there.
Right.
And then we've got JC from Kansas. He really enjoyed the Kansas story. Very well done. Thank you so much, and thank you for being with us tonight. And we're a little quiet right now.
I know.
So call that number at the bottom of your screen.
We need you to pick up the phone and call us. We want to keep these phone operators busy tonight. We've changed them around just a little bit, added a few new ones, and so give you an opportunity to talk to someone different. So our storytellers are just so sweet, coming here tonight to cheer on for their sweet towns so you can hear their stories and so you can share in their excitement. And the way you share in their excitement is by calling in the number on your screen, getting a DVD or a Blu-ray, or getting both, and getting several, and try to beat the one that got 4. Like, how cool is that?
I was going to say, I had to ask the phone operators, now how much is that? This math is not my strong suit. But earlier I was talking about having some folks here that I knew growing up, and I know one of them is behind me. We've got Dakota Kirshner. You just saw his story, 5 generations and counting. We're so glad to have you tonight.
I'm glad to be here.
Of course. And so as you were doing this process, did any of it make you nervous? What was fun about it?
I wasn't really too nervous, to be honest with you, but
Good.
it was. I personally didn't know the full story of our business, so it was cool to talk to my grandpa and kind of dig into that a little farther, because there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and I thought it was really interesting to learn about.
Yes, I really love when you were talking about heating up the bricks as the gentlemen are doing horse and buggy. Was there any other interesting kind of quirky things like that, or?
Nothing that he mentioned too much. I mean, everything back then was done by hands, where now it's all mechanical. You got forklifts, you got semis, big trucks. It's all just different now.
A lot quicker for sure.
Yes, a lot more efficient.
And I know that you were kind of featured in TJ's story as well for the Tri-County Titans stuff. Does that bring back some memories, some of this Oaks and Titans gear?
Yes, those were the days.
What was your favorite sports memory? Do you have one you could share?
There was actually a picture at the very beginning of, it was me, TJ, Skylar, and I don't remember who the other was. We were all holding hands. It might have been Michael, and we were all holding hands going on the 50-yard line for the coin flip at the beginning of the game, and that's just something, that's an awesome experience.
Fantastic. Well, we're so glad to have you tonight. If you guys want to give a shout out or talk to Dakota, give him a call. That number's at the bottom of your screen. And I think we've got another interview in store on our other set. Wanda Kay?
Yes, we do. We are joined right now by one of our storytellers, our sweet Wanda Rule. She is 98 years young, And I'm telling you, she is a trooper. She's right here all the way, and she's excited tonight. Wanda, can you tell us what this experience was like for you to be part of this story?
It has been a very great experience, one of the best in my life. And you can't tell me we can't keep having new experiences and new things going, no matter what your age is. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought everything has gone so well, and all of you have been so gracious in helping us relax to do our part.
Oh, that is so sweet. And so tell me what coming here to the TV station was like for tonight.
This has been quite different as we see so many of you working in order to bring this to pass. And it's hard for us to realize that it takes so many different parts to put the whole program together.
It really does. WEIU is one big family, and we just love having you as part of our family. And that's kind of what this is like tonight.
It is. And with the meeting last Thursday night for the red carpet, it was lovely. Oh. It really was. It was just, well, beyond our imagination almost of what everything went so well. And it was such a congenial atmosphere. Everybody was comfortable and socially adapted, I think, to each other.
That's so sweet. Oh my goodness. Don't you just love her? I'm telling you, 98 years young, sharp as can be, and right here with us tonight. So call in and support this station, support this program, just because of little Wanda Rule, 98 years young. If she can come out and be a part of something like this, then you can pick up the phone and call in and support. Back to Lacey.
Thank you, Wanda K. And is it Wanda squared? Is that what we're going with? Double the Wanda? We'll work on that. But again, thank you all so much for calling in. It means a lot. Like we've been saying, WEIU, it's a big family. It's a great educational opportunity. I know I went to Oakland High School, but I came here for college. I got the on-air experience that I had been craving. I didn't even realize that WEIU was in my own backyard. Our news director here, she calls it the hidden gem. And we don't want it to be hidden. Tonight we want you to share this. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, be sure to share the link with your friends. Like Wanda K said, give them a call, shoot them a text. Let them know that they're missing out on an incredible story.
Look at that house. The Rutherford House over in Oakland. Lacey and I went and was able to tour the house, and oh my goodness, such treasures. And then Kathy was so sweet. She said, you know what, I think I have a dollhouse out in the barn. Why don't we go out there? And I thought that barn door was going to fall off the hinges trying to get in there. We open it up, and there is this beautiful dollhouse that's a replica of the Rutherford home there in Oakland. So if you ever get a chance in the area to go by and visit that, another treasure.
It's so cool, and you'll see Kathy's story in our final segment. She is the best tour guide. Let me tell you what, if you head up to the Rutherford home, she and Landmarks Inc., there it is, she will give you one of the best tours. She's so animated, you're going to love her story. And so thank you for keeping these phones busy. We love that. I think it's just Miss Jackie. If you want to fill up the phones, give a call now. Number's at the bottom of your screen.
That's right. Call in and show your support tonight. What a great program. I just love this program because it just has such heart. You just feel the love that these precious people have for their little small towns. And like I say, small towns, but big hearts. And we feel that tonight. And I know you feel it because the phones are busy. And thank you for that. Thank you because it's supporting WEIU to continue doing what we love to do, which is reach out into the community, train students here at EIU and be able to train them for a future career.
Say, here I am.
Exactly. Right here is a product of what we do. Miss Lacey Spence, I'm telling you. So please pick up the phone and call and become a member with us. Your membership is so important to WEIU. That's how we continue going out into the communities. That's how we continue doing everything we do every day. And we love it. We love doing this. My goodness, Lacey and I don't know how many times we've said how much we love getting up and coming to a job to get to do what we get to do, which is tell your stories and just highlight your towns.
And meet the people.
Oh,
that's
my
the thing too.
goodness.
There's a lot of folks here who I didn't know before the project, and it's just so special to get to know them on that level where they're telling, in some cases, some of their most intimate stories, their most treasured stories.
Yeah.
And it's great to be able to connect like that.
Oh my goodness, and I love them. I love every one of them so much. And you know, we were laughing a minute ago with our beautiful Dakota, you know, like what? He's this single, young, amazing man, but now we're all protective of him because like he's our family. And so like you got to go through me and Lacey, the big sisters here, to get to Dakota. It's just kidding. I don't know, maybe if you buy a DVD or Blu-ray, you can get to him really
said that
easy.
was part of the requirement. See, so if
we'll sell him for a Blu-ray or DVD.
No, you did not.
Just
if you would
kidding.
like a DVD or Blu-ray, you can
Right.
call in this
Call
evening.
in.
It's $75.
Dakota would love to talk
He
to
would love
you.
to talk to you.
Yeah.
$75 for one disc, and it's $60 for 2 or more. And this year we are adding Blu-rays in addition to DVDs. So if you're not sure which format you prefer, if you're like, I've always got a DVD, that's fine. Stick with the DVD, no worries. But we do offer a Blu-ray now, slightly crisper, but it's no extra charge for it to be a Blu-ray. So it's either $75 for one or $60 for 2 or more.
So get one for your graduate, get one for your mom or your dad, and make them feel really special. This is something they can watch for so many years to come and be a treasure that they can pull out the DVD or the Blu-ray, stick it in, and be able to watch it and just love all these stories and just love these beautiful towns that have shared their stories with you. So we're just having a blast here tonight. The phones are almost busy. Jamie's waiting on a phone call.
Love that.
So be that next person that picks up the phone and calls the number on your screen. And please support this program tonight. Right now, we're getting close to going back to
in
some
our
more
next
stories,
segment,
aren't we?
we've got some great ones. If you ever went to Oakland High School, they did an event before they tore down the old high school, and it's
So
a treasure.
cool.
Janice Hunt, she runs the newspaper in Oakland. She did a phenomenal job. Again, one of those folks was a tad nervous to be on camera, but again, she came in, she killed it. As I'm sitting there listening to the unedited version, I'm hooked. I'm like, oh, I can remember those creaky floors, like so nostalgic for that building. My class was the last one to graduate from it, so it's one of my favorites.
Wow. So right now, you're going to get to hear this story. We're going right back to Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas.
This is our story.
The community came together in 1921 to build a new high school, and it was quite a big deal. There were 2 newspapers in Oakland at the time, and both of them boasted about what a wonderful facility this was, state-of-the-art, modern. And this was not something that a lot of towns had back then, and so the newspapers were trying to get people to attend. And on that first day, they had 160 students enrolled. And at that time, you know, high school was kind of a luxury, so it wasn't something every kid went to, and so that was a pretty good number. So through the years, several generations of families went through there. My family is one of those. My brother and I were 3rd-generation students. My parents were high school sweethearts there. And there were a lot of families like ours that just had generation after generation, even 4 generations and probably more. In 2012, they decided to tear down the old high school and build a new one. It was the right time to do it. There was grant money involved, and it was going to help pay to tear down the old high school instead of letting it deteriorate like some unfortunately do in some towns. And so some of us decided we really needed a chance to give the building a proper goodbye. It's a place we all made a lot of memories, a lot of relationships that lasted our whole lives. So we got this event together, and we had 382 graduates sign in that day, walking in through the high school for one last look at the building. Several former teachers, and people came from 12 different states just to have this one chance to walk through it one last time. So we put together a program with a video with alumni's memories, speakers, and we got an alumni band together to play the school song one last time. We estimate over 500 people were in the gym that day, and it was just seeing everybody stand and clap along to the school song one last time was just really emotional. You could see the emotion on people's faces. These were people who maybe were cheerleaders in there at one time, basketball players, just played in the band, had PE in this gym. They were taken back 10, 20, 40, 50 years in time, and it was just really a special thing to be a part of. So one thing we wanted to do to preserve the memory of the building was put up a monument. An OHS graduate, Gary Pearson, hand drew a picture of the high school on there, and it is absolutely beautiful. It has brick columns that are actually made of bricks collected from the building. Jim Craven, another OHS graduate, volunteered his services to put that together. And so it stands there as a nice little reminder, a nice memento for us who went there, and a way to show people, maybe these kids who never knew the building, they can look at it and see this was here at one time. Our community was very fortunate to be able to build a new high school. It sits right next to the grade school, just next to the lot where the high school used to be. And it's a very nice facility, just like ours, the old one was back then. They've kind of tried to tie in the old high school a little bit with the new one. They have the old scoreboard from the old gym in there. And in the old high school, we had old class pictures hung up, and you could flip through them and look back through the years, and that was always something we enjoyed doing as high schoolers. And I've seen the teenagers now looking through there, looking for their parents, their aunts and uncles, their grandparents, and just seeing who else they know in there. And it's just nice that they, even though that building's not there, they still feel that same connection that we all felt, and we're all still OHS graduates, and it's just a special thing to be.
April 19th, 1867, Ashmore was incorporated. In building near the timber area, it became evident that log cabins was the best way to have a house. Log cabins, being of wood, increased the risk of fire. So immediately the need for water and firefighting became known. Water was a scarcity and a necessity. And what happened is people would gather rainwater, and they would have wells and tankers, and they would bring water from their own personal stash to the fire scene to assist in having water. As firefighting became more necessary with the wood log cabins, the Ashmore village was able to acquire a pull-behind fire tanker. This fire tanker was manufactured in 1871, which we presently still have this unit today. What's fascinating about it is it was a 65-gallon water tank, and even more fascinating was the fact that it had a container on the top of the tank where you could put a glass vial with some chemicals, and you would put them in the top of the tank, seal the top, and it had a striker that would break the glass. When these chemicals met with the water, instant chemical reaction caused pressure, and thus we were able to spray water out of the hoses into the buckets and aid the firefighting. Over time, the communication process is rather unique for the fire department. This fire system with the 3 phones were red fire phones. They were in the house of 3 locations, and the children, myself included, were forbid to touch those fire phones. They had a button at the location of the fire phone where they could actually push the button and it would set the siren. So what would happen is the fireman would report, call the phone, say where's the fire, get the information and move on. So I witnessed this through childhood, my father leaving everything he was doing. When the fire siren went off, it was time to respond. So my interest was created through that process. So I actually joined the fire department in 1979. I worked my way through the ranks from volunteer to captain to assistant chief. and I actually was assistant chief from 97 to about 2005, which is when I retired from the fire department. It's not about fighting fires and being a hero. The fact that you're able to help somebody in a misfortunate situation and make it less painful, protect what property you can, that's what we're about. All of these chiefs, through their efforts and through their time of giving, pursued grants, and many of our trucks and many of our pumpers and where we stand today is because of their efforts in grant writing and getting that all cleared and the monies from that. When I look at the Ashmore Fire Department and what we have going on, it is revered by many fire departments in this area as one of the top fire departments.
Dr. Rutherford left an indelible mark on local, state, and national history as a friend of Abraham Lincoln and a champion of human rights with his work on the Lincoln-Matson slave trial. He arrived in Oakland in December 1840 as a bachelor. He came on horseback with his medical tools, a $10 gold piece in his pocket, and his skills as a physician. He started his new practice in this community called Oakland, and the year became 1847. His practice was going well, and he decided it was time to build a home that reflected his stature in this community. He was the well-respected physician, you know. He started building this home and told of bringing the logs up from the river east of town, but he was highly criticized. He spent $1,600 building this home. He wrote home telling his brother, John, about the fireplace in the house. It was so big it would burn a wagon load of logs on a cold winter's night. 1847 again, huge year for the doctor. This was the year of the Lincoln-Matson slave trial. There were some slaves that ran away from their slave owner north of Oakland and sought out Dr. Rutherford and Gideon Ashmore. They were both Oakland residents and they were both known abolitionists. They wanted to seek help, to seek their freedom, because Colonel Matson had threatened to sell the children south, and that was a death sentence. So Dr. Rutherford and Gideon Ashmore came to the aid, and they hid these slaves, and Rutherford says, I've got a friend, and he's a circuit riding lawyer. I'll ask him. We're like-minded. So he went up to Abraham Lincoln, and he said, will you take this case? Abraham Lincoln had to tell him he had already taken the case for Colonel Matson. I'm not sure they ever spoke again. That was a really hard one for Dr. Rutherford. This was a huge trial. There was 3 Supreme Court justices set on this trial in Coles County in Charleston, Illinois, hearing this case. The base of the case was the slaves were in transit, but the reason Lincoln lost the case was because the slaves had been held there for 2 years. The slaves were set free, and Dr. Rutherford was able to help with that. At this very slave trial, this was so highly publicized and so many people wanted to see it, Harriet Hutcherson traveled from Springfield, Illinois to Charleston, Illinois to stay with her uncle. That was the only reason she was coming, to hear this trial. And of course, her uncle was a Charleston physician. So he knew the Oakland physician, and they were introduced. And Dr. Rutherford wrote home to his brother John telling he'd met this young lady, and he liked the turn of her ankle. They were soon married and had 9 children. 2 of those children died in infancy, but they also raised 2 black children as their own. They set up housekeeping in this brand new house that he had built, and as the house got full, he had to build the Pioneer Doctor's office across the street. And we've been told it's possibly the last freestanding Pioneer Doctor's office in the state of Illinois. Landmarks, Inc. came to be in 1969 when Harriet Crawford, Dr. Hiram Rutherford's granddaughter, gave us the property. Since then, the property has been solely maintained by donations, with the exception of 1 grant, and that was in the last few years. The complex is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and has also been listed on the National Park Service Underground Railroad for Dr. Rutherford's abolitionist work.
I started as a substitute actually my senior year of high school. I've been involved with the library since then. You know, the saying like, you never work a day in your life if you love what you do. And that is definitely how it is. The library has been established since 1932. We didn't have a building back then. We were located at the top of the City Hall. It literally says in our history book, a tea was held. Members there were asked to donate $1, and then they were asked to donate a book. And then the memberships were sold for $1. But then in 1945, a building was donated to us. We are still in that original building. Since 1945, to 2021, that is 76 years that we have been in that building. We were just the Kansas Library. However, we are now the Kansas Community Memorial Library. We got that name kind of by accident. In World War II, a lot of our local citizens donated books in memory or in honor of men and women who served in the armed forces. So that became part of our name. And also, whenever people donate in memorial or in honor of anybody, that book stays in our library. Even if a book has not been checked out in 50 years, if it has a memorial sticker, then it stays. We have a machine there. It is called a microfiche. The microfiche can read medias. They're microfilms. The machine reads those, and you can look at old pictures. We have microfiche of our Kansas Journal. We have quite a few of them. It keeps them digital so we don't have to keep paper copies. We also keep yearbooks, and we have a lot of documents, and we have a lot of articles and scrapbooks. There are quite a few patrons that come in and still use the library today. I believe that we are very, very important to our community. Not only just to, check out books, to come in for company, but because we keep a lot of records and a lot of history from Kansas still lives in our library. And no matter what you are going through, no matter what the struggles you have, you're able to escape with a good book.
I can remember back in about '64 a little bit, Dad and Ed and a bunch of other guys from right here around town, they'd go out there on Sundays, and I remember when they was putting up the white fence around it and they just got the grandstands built. I just was enthralled with it. I kind of always wanted to be around it. And when it first started, I remember going out watching all the guys with Dad, and my mom would take me up the stands. I think there was almost 15 of them here from Ashmore that raced back in the day. When Mom and Dad didn't go, I'd climb up in the treehouse and listen to the races, because on the right day, you could hear it. And I'd get up there and had my little radio, and I'd listen to it. And actually back then they had an announcer on the radio that did it too. So decided I wanted to race, and my dad figured if I wanted to race bad enough, I'd build the car myself, and I pretty much did. And went out the first night. I was a senior in high school. I actually won my race first night out. I think that was probably a determining factor of why I kept doing it. But always had a good time, and it got to be a big family thing. We always took all my nieces and nephews, and now I got 2 grandsons coming up doing it. My son, he's raced probably 20 years. I think I've raced 40, this will be my 43rd year. I've ran several different classes. When it started up out here at the Speedway, I pretty sure it was only one class. It was just like everybody had their own streetcars and they put bars in them and they went and raced. And now you got 5 or 6 different classes. A guy named Sonny Ross owns it now, but it's had several owners and it's still the same grandstands there and same track surface. I mean, there's a lot of tracks that's closed up, you know, with the economy and the hard times, you know. And I'm glad to see this one still here.
And welcome back. This is our last segment now. We have just heard the last of our stories. We know you are as pumped as we are. We're so excited. We're having a party in the studio. So please pick up the phone. Our phone callers, our phone operators are waiting for you to call in right now and talk to them. So they want to hear from you.
That's right, and if there's a big busy signal, which it's a good problem to have, please keep calling. And we also have an option for you to give at WEIU.net. It's safe and secure.
Yes, it is. We want to give a shout out to Mary in Kansas. This is John Saxon's sister. Oh my God.
She's a hoot.
She is a hoot for sure. I love you, Mary Houston. And she was on our red carpet planning committee. And my goodness, we had a blast. It was so much fun. That red carpet was like nothing I've ever been a part of. I mean, handing out Oscars to our 15 storytellers, and they are stars in our eyes, and that's why we're so excited to share this story with you tonight.
For sure. You want me to dive in a little bit? We've got Kathy B. from Charleston. Her husband is from Kansas, getting a little touch of the A-OK magic tonight. We've got Rick and Sharon from Charleston. We've got Karen D. from Ashmore snagging 2 of the discs. She said she loved the stories about the churches, brought back a lot of memories.
Oh my goodness. And then we've got Ed from Kansas. He got a DVD or a Blu-ray one. We got Bev C. from Ashmore. And she gave, thank you so much. Jamie from Kansas, he got a DVD or a Blu-ray. So thank you so much. And then we got Pam Kelly from Brockton. Pam is an EIU grad. She's buying a DVD in honor of her son Michael and Brett's son Connor, who both are autistic. This is Autism Awareness Month. So what a special, special gift. And thank you so much, Pam, for calling in, and how great this is.
And we've also got one more special huge shout out to give for Lisa from Charleston. It's Dakota's aunt calling in. She's snagged the most so far, 6 DVDs.
Wow.
Thank you, Lisa, rocking it out for us.
That's what we like to hear.
And those phones ringing. We like to hear that too.
That's so cool. Thank you all so much for getting in here with us and making this the greatest evening. My goodness, the phones have been ringing ever since the first 5 stories came through, and the phones have just not stopped really, and we thank you for that. WEIU appreciates the opportunity that we have to go into our communities to tell the stories of these beautiful people. We are so blessed with such lovely people in these towns, and these stories, everybody in the control room in there are saying, wow, this is so great. These stories are phenomenal. And they really are. They just touch your heart in such a special way. And so tonight, pick up the phone and call the number on your screen. Get your DVD or Blu-ray, or get it for a loved one. Father's Day, Mother's Day is coming up. Get that grad for graduation. My goodness, that's coming up. Or just because you love someone and you just want to give them this special gift, or get it for yourself. So just get as many as you want, because we just love that, and it just helps us keep doing what we do.
And I think it's kind of a testament to this whole series, because you're not even from Ashmore, Oakland, or Kansas. Like, I'm from Oakland, so all of these like hit me in the heart just a little bit more. But to be able to reach folks like you, folks who aren't even from these towns, but you can make them feel something. You can introduce them to all these lovely people, their lovely stories.
Yes.
And it's just a blessing.
It reminded me of my hometown. You know, growing up in the hills of Virginia, in my little old town, it just reminded me because of that southern hospitality. And I know here we are in the Midwest, and the funniest thing is these Midwest people are talking like me now. And that is just the coolest thing to me. I think that Mary Houston, she is so funny, just got the greatest sense of humor. And she asked me the other day, she said, am I starting to talk like you? And I said, you really are. How cool is that? So I just feel like I'm a part of these families. And that's how they made us feel. They just welcomed us with open arms. Like you see our set tonight, this awesome set.
Open their hearts in their living rooms,
wow.
their
to give
trophy
us
chests.
their most treasured items to put on this, I mean, to trust me. Well, I've had these in my office for over a week, and they trusted me to take care of their beautiful treasures and to share them with you tonight on our beautiful set. So please pick up the phone, call, and get your DVD or Blu-ray tonight. One is $75, two or more are $60 each. You cannot beat that great bargain. And so pick up the phone and call. If it's busy, like Lacey said, keep calling until you get through.
Let's talk about a couple of those stories from the last segment. We've got Denny Schwartz, which is a bit of a racing legend around here, if you guys didn't know. I know that when I was the last going to the racetrack and had time for that, doggone it, it was the Danny and Denny show. So him and his son were just like this amazing racing duo. And now the grandsons are getting into it, and they are rock star racers. We've got Rob Calhoun here. He does Hit Mix Radio for us. He's actually an announcer out there, and he can't say enough about the Schwartz fam and how great they are. But Denny, so stinking humble. He was telling us about all of the races and the fun things that he done. And so we've got huge trophies in the back there. And we were asking, so how many races have you won? And he was like, I don't even keep track of that. It doesn't matter to me. I think if you ask somebody, it'd say, you know, a couple hundred. It's like 400. So we keep inflating the numbers because we just think he's the bomb.
Oh,
he's so humble about it.
He really is. And the coolest thing, talk about a treasure. He let us bring his very first trophy to our set tonight. And that was just cool. He said, well, my dad said, if you want to race bad enough, build a car. He said, so I did. I built a car. And he said, and then I put bars in it, drove it to the racetrack, and won my first race out. And I was hooked.
Yep.
I mean, it's such sweet, sweet people and so humble.
And we got some more sweet, sweet people who have called in this evening. We've got Myrna Bell from Oakland. She was my chorus teacher, former band teacher at OHS. If you were watching the OHS Memory Story, she was conducting the alumni band, leading the rah, rah, rah. She's a hoot. She was great for all of my musicals. Thank you so much for calling in, Mrs. Bell. We've got Judy C. Oh, it's Judy Coffey from Ashmore, Dakota's grandparents calling in. So they were the Growing a Legacy.
That is
another
so
great story.
Sweet. Oh, yes. I mean, when Tony talked about working out in the field all day long and then being so tired, but his son came with the football and they started throwing football back and forth with each other. I mean, these are stories that, I mean, this is just real down home love.
Well, again, it shows you the heart because he wanted to spend time with family. That's what was important to him, not getting the crops in or anything like that. It was making that time for family, looking forward to the next generation.
And you know, you can be a part of our family tonight.
Yes.
If you call in and order your DVD, you can become a member of the WEIU family, and you can help enable us to continue doing what we love to do. We'll keep going to these communities just as long as we possibly can, and keep finding great storytellers to tell their phenomenal stories about their sweet towns so we can keep sharing them with you. That's what we love to do.
We love that our phone operators are so busy. I had an appointment with Kathy, and it's gonna wait because she's a very important lady. She's making that phone call for us. So again, if you're wanting to get a copy of Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, this is our story. One for you, one for your mom for Mother's Day, one to share with your graduate. You can do that right now. You can get one Blu-ray or DVD for $75. Two or more is $60. You can call that number at the bottom of your screen. Like we said, if that phone line is busy, please keep calling. We've got 4 busy souls back there. They're doing their best. If you just cannot wait, you can go online to WEIU.net. It's safe and secure, and we would love for you to support WEIU through this.
Yes, so please call in and talk to these storytellers. They are having a blast tonight. Everybody in the studio is just having so much fun because getting to talk to the people, it just makes it really real. Then they really know you're really watching and that their story really touched you. And so that's your way of showing them that you care. You care about what we're doing, and it shows us that you care. WEIU loves you. We're here for you. We are a big family, and we are, you know, the greatest thing I've found about WEIU? We are a family, and there's always room for one more. We love it. Our family's growing, and we love that, and we love welcoming new members in. So I hope we have a lot of new callers tonight. That gets me just on fire when I'm going through and looking, and it's brand new people tuning in, coming in, and being a part of our family. So thanks for all the calls tonight.
It made me smile from ear to ear. I got a text from my friend Ellen. She's living up in Chicago now, but she said her parents are watching. So shout out to the Childress clan. Thank you for watching. Thanks for grabbing a DVD. And again, making these connections, being able to come from my hometown, tell your guys' stories is such an honor. Such an honor.
I know. I think every time we met somebody, Lacey was like, and I know them. And then we would meet somebody else, and I'm like, oh, Lacey, did you know? Yes, I know them. Those are my people, Wanda Kay. So how great is that? To get to go to your hometown and do a story. I mean,
very blessed.
Wow,
Very
blessed.
And I feel like I have to give a shout out to Kathy back here on the phone because she's kind of part of the reason I feel like she spoke it into existence that I'm here. She was one of my Sunday school teachers, and she would tell me, like, she'd have me read a passage or whatever, and she'd be like, you have a good voice, like maybe for broadcast. And I was like, oh, no, please don't call on me again. But here I am. So another shout out to Kathy for making this possible.
Oh, and that just reminds me of Jamie Hopper's story.
Yes.
Oh my, didn't you love it when he talked about that he wrote it down in 8th grade? They had him write their goals down, and he wrote his goals down that he wanted to work at Walnut Point. And then he goes off and joins the service and sees the world, goes to U of I and works for a while, and then fulfills his dream and his goal, reached his goal. And that was working at Walnut Point. And not only working there, but we went and visited the other day, and right in the front, there's his house. So he lives there and is raising his family right there on those beautiful grounds of Walnut Point. So if you haven't had a chance to go there, I don't know. When I heard his story, I'm like, I'm going. Because hiking trails and a concession stand over there to get some good stuff. Lacey was telling me about ice cream with blueberry,
my parents would take me
blackberry drizzle on it. Oh
my goodness! After doing one of those hikes on a hot day.
Oh yeah, beautiful, beautiful grounds. And of course we have Ollie the otter on set with us tonight.
I think that might be.
Are you in
which
her
way?
way?
I was trying to practice a little give a little pat on the head. Our pet otter on set. How cool!
So wonderful. Thank you all for making this night so special for all of us, for calling, taking the time to be with us tonight. You could be doing all kinds of things, but you joined us here at WEIU, and we appreciate that. Thank you for these beautiful storytellers that have come and shared their heart with you, and for sharing it with us. Thanks for allowing Lacey and I to be a part of this great project with y'all.
And we've got a couple more phone thank yous. We've got Stephanie E. from Marshall. Thank you so much for getting a disc. Bonnie S. from Ashmore. Thank you for getting a disc. And you know, this whole night wouldn't be possible without our underwriters. Absolutely. They get a thank you at the front of the show, at the end of the show, but truly without their underwriting support, we could not do what we do. And that really means the world.
I'm going to name them real quick.
Oh, sure. We don't want you to leave anybody out.
Get this paper to open up. These hands would work. Okay, our underwriters are Horizon Health Oakland Clinic, Prospect Bank, Ritchie's Furniture, the City of Oakland, the Village of Ashmore, the Oakland Hinesboro Charitable Foundation, the Oakland Area Chamber of Commerce, the Ashmore Community Club, and the Illinois Arts Council. Thank you all so much for making this program possible.
And really quick, I might try to snag a little hello with Miss Kathy back here because she's been so busy, which I love. So, Kathy, what has been your favorite part of this whole process?
Oh, I don't know.
built by
I love
Olin
sitting down
Humphreys.
talking with you and Wanda Kay,
Yeah.
but our reunion was pretty special.
I was feeling a bit. I was
Oh,
like,
you
we've
told
got a
them.
history together.
I take a lot of credit for your career.
Okay, got it.
All because of this lady. We thank you so much for being here tonight and being one of our phone operators.
You're welcome. It's been a lot of fun.
Good. That's what we want. We want some fun. We want some good stories, and we want to connect with these different communities. It's such a blast.
And sweet Shirley Nolan called in, and she used to live, or she lived in Kansas above the Oaks drugstore. And she said the racetrack was built by Olin Humphreys, and who was originally, or it was originally a horse track.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
See, that's the fun thing too. We go to tell these stories, do so much research behind the scenes. Not everything makes it in. Like Brian Watson had so much going on with his story, a great history of Ashmore and the fire department and everything that they did, and it just doesn't all make it in. So that's a fun fact. Another fun fact, I've got to shout out to Judy Duzan from Hinesboro. She was my elementary school teacher. She's the best. I feel like I'm gonna
See,
cry.
she knows everybody.
Oh, thank you so much for calling in. It means the world.
Thank you all for making tonight such a great night. Keep calling in. We'll be here as long as these phones keep ringing. So keep on calling in and get your DVD and Blu-ray tonight. If you don't get the call in tonight, you can call me tomorrow and I'll be sure and help you with that. Or you can go on to our secure website, weiu.net, and get your DVD or Blu-ray to support this great project that we are so proud to be a part of.
Oh, for sure. One quick sweep. Does anybody have any other shout outs? Just don't want to leave anybody out. I know
Or do they
Cindy's
just
on the
want
phone.
a shout out? How great! Woo!
Hi, Mom and Dad. Love having some good energy in here. It's
Really
great.
do. And our sweet little 98-year young Wanda Rule is still in the house.
Rocking it
and
out.
just rocking
Yes,
this
Wanda.
show with us. We love her so much. We love all of our storytellers. We love our champions. We love our underwriters. We thank you all so much for making this great show what it's been. We are so proud to have brought to you the Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story.
Thank you.
Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story is brought to you in part by the Oakland Clinic is one of Horizon Health's 2 satellite rural health clinics providing care for all patients. Oakland Clinic Horizon Health hopes you enjoy Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story. Oakland Clinic Horizon Health is proud to be a part of the show and the Oakland area. With locations in Ashmore, Kansas, and Brockton, Prospect Bank supports all of the stories and storytellers in Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story. Prospect Bank is committed to service to all of the communities in our area. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Richie's Furniture is a family-owned and operated furniture store located in Ashmore and is a proud supporter of the production of Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story on WEIU. Richie's Furniture thanks those associated with the show and hopes everyone enjoys the stories. The city and residents of Oakland, Illinois support all of the storytellers and stories in Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story. The city of Oakland is honored to be a part of this historical program. Serving the Oakland area business community over 50 years, hosting events throughout the year, promoting business and tourism. The Oakland Area Chamber of Commerce supports Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story on WEIU. The mission of the Oakland Hinesboro Charitable Foundation is to enhance the communities of Oakland and Hinesboro. By supporting this show on WEIU, we hope it shows our commitment to Oakland and Hinesboro. A small town with good hearts describes the village of Ashmore. The village of Ashmore and their board is excited to be a part of Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story on WEIU. Enjoy the show from your friends in the village of Ashmore. The Ashmore Community Club thanks all of the storytellers and folks behind the scenes of Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story on WEIU. The Ashmore Community Club proudly supports all efforts in Ashmore. Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas, This Is Our Story is partially supported by a grant from the Illinois Arts Council, a state agency.
This program is partially supported by a grant from the Illinois Arts Council, a state agency.
Hello, I'm Dakota Kirshner.
I'm Kathy Pardai.
I'm Cindy Ritchie.
Hello, I'm John Saxton.
I'm Brian Watson.
Hello, I'm Tracy Montgomery. Be sure to watch Ashmore, Oakland, Kansas. This is our story right here on WEIU.
Tune in Sunday at 7 on WEIU.